One great tool that we can use, and you're going to use this over and over and over again, and you may have already been using this idea in many things. Maybe you didn't know even what to call it. But it's the idea of a proportion, a relationship between two rational expressions. So for example, if I had one rational expression A over B equals C over D, that's a proportion, a ratio of one equaling another one. And what I can do with this is I can do lots of cross multiplications. For example, I can multiply both sides by D. If I did that, those cancel. I have D times A over B equals C. And now maybe I want to multiply both sides by B. Just play along with me. B's cancel. I have A times D equals B times C. Pretty much got rid of the fraction. Used a fraction killer in proportion language. What a lot of people do is when they look at a proportion, A over B equals C over D, they realize basically what we're doing is we're cross multiplying. These guys right here equal those guys there. One set of corners equals the other set of corners. For example, AD is one corner and the other corners B and C. And we saw that as we went through algebraically and divided both sides by the same number or multiplied both sides by the same number. Well, a lot of times in proportions, you can just look at the corners and realize that the corners equal the other corners. Well, how that comes into play is in a situation like this. Let's say in a community where you live, and I know the community that I live, I have some houses that do cost a lot of money. Not mine, but some houses. So say for example, I know that there's a house that costs $480,000. And then there's another house down the street that costs $600,000. And if you keep up with your math, improve your skills, you're going to be making money that maybe one day you can afford a house like this. Well, with this house, there's also come taxes. And I know that the tax rate for the house at $480,000 is $5,760. Well, I want to find out what's the tax of the house at the $600,000, assuming that it's the same tax rate. Well, that's a proportion. So I'm going to start to set this up in some type of proportional manner. So for example, maybe I'm going to take the tax rate of the first house divided by the first house, the cost. So rate divided by cost is going to equal the rate of the other house divided by its cost. And now I have a proportion. I have an equation with one unknown. And I'm going to go ahead and try and solve this particular problem. Well, what we discovered in the proportions is that I can multiply the corners. So I'm going to multiply this 600 up to this side over here, or basically multiply both sides by 600. So that's 600,000 times 5,760 divided by 48000 equals the cost or the tax rate of the other house. Well, 600,000 times 5,760 is a big number. Looks like it equals $3,456,000, and my house is still $480,000. I divide those guys out. I can cancel those zeros. Cancel that 0, divide that by 48, looks like I get 72000 equals x. So I found out what x equals. X equals 7,200. But I have to go back and look at the problem and describe or understand what did it represent. And what it represented was the tax of the house of $600,000, assuming that I'm using the same tax rate. And that seems to make sense. I am expecting a higher tax on a house that costs a little bit more. So I am satisfied with $7,200 being the correct tax rate for a house of $600,000 given this situation.